Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. If we are new to each other, my name is Jamie, and today we're going to be talking about the 16-inch Intel MacBook Pro and also chatting about the 13-inch M1 MacBook Pro. But first, YouTube, we gotta talk. So get a little closer. A little closer. Alright, that's good. That's good. So, did you know that 97% of you guys right now aren't subscribed to the channel? Let's take a brief moment, pause. I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. But take a moment, go hit that subscribe button, and then we will continue. All right, good. Perfect. Now, let's get started. Alright, so you're probably in a category of 1 out of 2 situations. You actually probably really do need an upgrade and really can't decide on which one. Or maybe you don't really need to upgrade to the M1 MacBook Pro 13-inch because your current device is probably good. Maybe, but we're going to discuss the two and just kind of go over the pros and cons of what I enjoy about using it on the two devices and why I even have two devices. So we're going to discuss them both. So first up, the MacBook Pro 16-inch with the Intel chip. Absolutely love this guy. I did not have it for a couple weeks. It was out for repair. Very happy it's come back. Primarily it is those thinner bezels. You have so much more screen real estate to move around, work with, windows floating around all over the place. And it's so great to be able to have all of that when you're trying to get so many things done with one solid device. And then speaking of large, absolutely the speakers have so much more volume, so much more bass. You turn them on up, sometimes I'm like, oh, is my HomePod playing? No, it's my MacBook Pro 16-inch. So those speakers, do not take them for granted. Also, the microphone also works very, very well on this guy. I'm not going to discredit the microphone on the 13-inch MacBook Pro, but the microphone is very well on this one, as well as those speakers. The speakers, they just boom. And it's so crazy what Apple's been able to do with their audio devices. I mean, we have all these new music products, which is absolutely fantastic. And then of course, since they are Intel chips, all apps or applications run natively on this guy, which is good. No issues really with the M1 MacBook Pro, but we'll get to that guy a little bit later. But really, what I really enjoy about this one, the very most, are the 4 ports on it. You have 2 to the left, you have 2 to the right, including the headphone jack, and you really need that in a Pro device. You need to be able to have an SSD card reader, you need to be able to sometimes have an SSD memory drive attached, you also need to have the power adapter attached, and then maybe you need headphones through Lightning attached. So many of the things that you need to have running on a Pro device if you're doing a lot of things at once. So having the 4 ports, it's crucial. Really like to see at least 6, maybe 5 in the next one. Fingers crossed. Don't really see why not. It definitely has the power to do so. But yeah, definitely those 4 ports are fundamental. So not to totally discredit the battery, it's very large and it does last a long time, but not if you are doing extensive things. And I really didn't think webcamming was an extensive thing until I noticed the battery just drain. But apparently it is. Another thing that could probably be a little better, and it will be once the M1 chip rolls around for the 16-incher, is the heat thermals. Those thermals, oh my Lanta, it gets very hot. So the other day I was using the M1 on the couch, and it's getting cold here. The weather, the weather outside is frightful, as they say, and I'm almost put the 13-inch away so that I could go upstairs and get the 16-inch, so that I could be warm on my lap, which sounds crazy, but this guy gets so hot sometimes, especially if you're doing video editing. And me particularly, I do enjoy heat, so I don't mind it as much. But because it's getting so hot, the fans, oh boy, the fans. It's like you're on a turnpike at an airport. literally probably almost all the time. Any type of exporting, whether it's photos, video, forget it. Even sometimes when I connect it to the iMac behind me, which I enjoy to do so also much, because it's powerful. I love it. It has so much power, absolutely, but it is just loud and it gets hot. And the large display obviously is what drives me to this device again and again. So being able to connect it to my iMac behind me is great. And that is something that I cannot do with the M1 MacBook Pro 13-inch. So none of the Silicon Macs, I've tried the Mac Mini, none of them are able to connect to an iMac using that target display mode. So if you are going to be pretty stationary, which I have been with this guy this entire year since I've had it since 2019, considering we've been in a lockdown, it is definitely my go-to machine. I've missed it for 2 weeks, even though I did replace it with the M1 13-inch MacBook Pro. I did find myself really missing this laptop. I've missed the sound of the speaker volume, and I definitely missed that screen real estate and the 4 ports. So that really makes this 16-inch Intel MacBook Pro my go-to machine for getting things done. We're going to talk about the M1 MacBook next, but please do not discredit this machine if you need a machine right now. And now we're just going to flip-flop these guys and moving on to the M1 MacBook Pro 13-incher and what I love. First of all, it is that speed. It is so fast. I was using Lightroom yesterday with this guy, and then I was using Lightroom today with the 16-inch, and I was like, what is going on? What are these lags? Lightroom is not even optimized for the Apple Silicon chip just yet, so only imagine when the time comes how much faster that this machine is going to be able to handle it. So that is one notice. And then obviously any native Apple app is just so fast. Safari is like, boop, already there. Any of the native apps work so well. Final Cut, I would say, is like pretty 50-50. Maybe 40% for this 16-inch MacBook Pro, and then we'll give this guy 60%. And optimal speed and performance, which is absolutely great. Another amazing thing, speaking of Final Cut Pro, is how quiet this guy is. Oh my lands, you don't hear it. You don't. You really don't. A fan, it has one. I don't hear it. As far as thermals, it gets very lukewarm. Like, yeah, it's just, so if you have a MacBook in the winter, it literally feels cold. You touch it and you're like, ugh, get it off me. But it gets like a lukewarm where it's not uncomfortable to hold on your lap if you're not wearing pants and you're maybe wearing shorts or something like that. That's how warm it gets. It's like a comfortable warm. Again, I do look forward to the warmth of the 16-inch MacBook Pro, specifically if I'm cold. But it does not get hot at all if you're displeased with heat. So the thermals, amazing. Quiet, never heard a peep. So those things are absolutely great. And another little piece that I've been enjoying are iOS apps working on the MacBook Pro. So I've been playing Among Us and a couple other different apps that are only available to the, well, originally only available to the iOS ecosystem. Now are available to the MacBook Pro, which is absolutely pretty cool. But don't believe that it's every app just yet. So it really depends still, just like any Intel to M1 conversion, depends on the developer. So not every app will work on your MacBook Pro. So similar to how some apps, Instagram, only works on your iPhone really natively, but you're still able to use it on Instagram, but it's just not the same. That is not the case with the M1 MacBook Pro. It'll just say not available at this time, doesn't let you hit the little get button. You're still able to search it, but you're not able to download it. So it's a win and it's a downer, but it's all down to the developer. Especially some of these big apps, it's like, get with it. You have the resources and you absolutely have the time. Don't know why they're not jumping on board. And then the battery life absolutely is great. Yeah, it's great. It really does last you an entire day. So the only thing I did notice, which brings us to the next thing that I like about the 13-inch MacBook Pro more than the 16-inch is the camera. So it is still a 720p camera, so same number of pixels and all that. But Apple does all these crazy things with their technology and their computational photography to be able to make you look just a little bit better. But again, if I'm going to be on webcam for more than an hour, I really do prefer to use the Logitech 4K webcam. I'll link it down below. If you're someone that is on screen all day long, or even a couple hours a day on a regular basis, really you want to look your best, and I really do enjoy this 4K webcam. Again, it turns on the fans on the 16-inch MacBook Pro. It gets it hot, it drains that battery, but on the 13-inch MacBook Pro, again, that lukewarm temperature, no sounds, no fans. They're not there. They're there, they're not there. And the battery life after a 15-minute class, it drained at about 15%. So definitely still drains the battery, even on the 13-inch MacBook Pro, but nowhere near the 16-inch. I swear after a class, it'll be 50% down. And that's just one lecture, 50 minutes. And so absolutely handles battery so much better, even with something that's draining the battery. So that is an absolute win. Moving on to the things that are meh. So there we go with the screen. So this computer, and really the main reason why I have the two is so that I could travel with this one. I move around the house with this guy. I love my iPad, but it really doesn't do all the things I need around the house. So when I really do need to get some work done, this has been it moves with me up and down these floors. So if you're new to this channel, I do have 5 flights. I'm in the city, so we have 5 flights of stairs. Everything's really thin but really tall. So this guy travels with me along the floors, and my 16-inch MacBook Pro pretty much stays stationary. And I really do use the 16-incher for work. And this guy really moves around with me more as if it was an iPad, but not necessarily. So I still need a little bit more power, and I just move a lot faster with a Mac OS than iPad OS, regardless. So the portability of having a 13-inch, so much lighter. I could hold it with one hand. I do hold the 16-inch with one hand, but I really, to be honest, disclaimer, that's how I think I broke it, by holding it with 2 fingers. I think I was pressing too hard because it was so heavy and it damaged the screen. But Apple does not need to know that. They repaired it for free. It did have Apple Care, but they did not give me any strikes. So you typically have 3 accidental strikes. So no strikes with that. But I mean, the guy is heavy. That 16-incher is heavy, and this guy's so light, so portable. Again, not traveling right now, but once we do travel, this guy's gonna stay home, and this guy is coming in my little backpack, my carry-on. So definitely that 13-inch footprint could be a no-go for a lot of people. I totally understand that having 2-sized computers is really not ideal or practical. So really deciding which screen size is right to you is truly ideal. So aside from the screen situation, definitely take the port situation into consideration when making your decision. Only having the limitation of 2 ports is kind of iffy. What really helps is the power of the battery life. So since you don't need to have that thing charging the entire time, that's definitely a huge plus. If you are going for the 2-porter, consider upgrading some of that internal memory, so that way you don't even need to have an external memory drive running the entire time as you're trying to get work done. But if none of that isn't even a question, kind of also consider, do I really need the upgrade? You always ask that to yourself. If the answer is yes, either machine is going to be amazing for you. Don't let the non-M1 chip on the Intel machine scare you off. I still really go to this guy way more than the 13-inch MacBook Pro, but I do use this guy to travel. But I'm only traveling with my home. But if you do travel in your day-to-day life, like in the real world, then that 13-inch size is perfect. It's ideal. It's really the sweet spot. And then maybe you're someone who already has a pretty decent MacBook Pro from either 2019 with those butterfly keyboards, or even a 2020 model, because the MacBook Pros and the MacBook Airs were all updated this very year, right before the closing of the year with the M1 chips. So maybe you're one of those people. Should you upgrade? No, I don't think so. Hold off. But if you are a 2017 person, you're going to get a big bang for your buck if you go and sell that guy on the Facebook Marketplace or wherever you like to sell your tech, because these guys really do hold their value. So that kind of goes towards that upgrading cost there, because you're going to get a pretty good price for it if you do decide to make the jump to one of these guys here. And speaking of cost, there's two different costs. This one being way more budget friendly, and then this one, for what you're getting, I think it's a really good value. But there are two different price points, at least $1,000 difference between both machines. So that's another real big factor that I haven't really discussed up until this point. So where do you fall in this scenario? Let me know in the comments down below, because I really do enjoy chatting with each and every one of you. They're both great machines, and you're lucky with everyone you pick, and if you already have a machine, you're also lucky already, because these machines are absolutely great. So there you have it. If you've made it all the way here, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. One last plea to please hit that subscribe button. And while you're down there, please hit that like button, because it really goes a whole heck of a lot way. Again, thank you so much. Please consider visiting those affiliate links down below for any needs that you have from Amazon. Again, go support me, go support the channel. Even if you don't buy whatever's listed down there, just by you clicking one of those links and then just shopping Amazon for whatever it is you truly do need really does help, and I appreciate it so much. And with all that gratitude said, I hope it was helpful, and until next time, I'll see ya.